to sound more professional in the workplace. I've got 6 things to share with you today. The first of which is if you happen to be on the phone. The first one is to say hello instead of hi. I know it's a small thing and lots of us just say hi most of the time, but it sounds more professional for you to say hello and then say the name of the place that you are at if you know it's an outside call, and maybe your name depending on your company policy. There's also a really old piece of advice that is still good and valid to this day, and that is if you want to sound more friendly on the phone, actually smile before you pick it up. Weird, I know, but it works. Try it next time. No one will know you're doing it, but pick up the phone, smile, and you will actually sound a little bit friendlier. The second tip that I have for you today is to try not to have an overly sing-songy voice, customer service voice. I used to be a server way back when. I understand that this is part of the shtick, right? It's part of what people do when they are serving others. But sometimes it sounds so fake. Hit like, drop a note in the chat if you agree. Sometimes it's like, oh, how are we today? Blah. And honestly, don't ever say that. How are we today is just a terrible phrase. And whenever somebody says that to me, I feel like saying, I'm fine. I don't know how you are. Anyway, just be sure that your voice, if you're going to do a sing-songy voice, isn't so obviously fake. We all have a professional voice. We have a different voice that we use when we are doing things in the workplace than we might have when we're at home. But sometimes it's obviously overdone. I was in a coffee shop once, and the person came to the till and said, how's your day going today? And then she turned around, I could still hear her, and she said to a coworker. I don't know what she was saying, but her tone of voice went down several octaves. My point is, if you're going to put on a professional voice, that's great, but just be aware of it sounding too overly fake, because then what happens is it becomes insincere. And when it becomes insincere, you are less effective, a representative of the company that you're working for, and then you're less professional. The third thing is to avoid filler words when possible. Now, many of us have words that we use as filler words and they become a habit. They become so ingrained in our brains that they're a habit. I say so all the time. You've probably noticed that. I also say you know all the time, and I try really hard not to do that, especially when I was podcasting. I would edit it out sometimes because it really bothered me, and if it bothered me, it probably bothered my listeners. There are filler words that we can work on to eliminate from our vocabulary to sound more professional. Words like. So like, I was going like to the like, you know, for example. Words like actually, if you say that at the beginning of every sentence, or basically, or technically, or literally. If these words are just being used to pepper into your speech, they don't mean anything anymore, and they make you sound less professional than you could sound if the words you were using meant what they actually mean. Sometimes you hear words like seriously or needless to say. Well, if you say needless to say, then you don't need to say it. I'm Jen Swanson, your career coach. If you are liking this, let me know down below, and let's get to tip number 4. To be professional in the workplace, if someone asks you a question, never say, I don't know, and leave it there. You can say, I don't know, but I'll find out for you. Or you can say, I'm not sure, but let me get you the answer. These are far more professional responses than just saying, I don't know, and leaving it there. That leaves the other person hanging, and it doesn't make you look very intelligent or professional. It's fine to not know something. Perfectly acceptable. But make it your business to go find out. The 5th tip is if you don't understand what someone said to you because you didn't hear it, it was noisy, they have an accent you're not familiar with, they were mumbling, whatever the case may be, instead of saying what or huh, as parents all over the world have been trying to instill in their children, you need to say it in a more professional way. So you could say something like, "I'm sorry I missed that. Could you repeat it for me?" Or, "I'm not clear what it was you said. Could you say it again?" Or, "I'm sorry I didn't hear you. It's loud in here. Could you say that again for me?" If the reason you didn't understand is because it wasn't clear, their words were understandable, but what they were actually saying wasn't, you could ask a clarifying question. You could paraphrase by repeating back to them what you think you heard to see if it is in accordance with what they were saying. Or you could ask in another way. You could say something like, "I'm not clear that I understand your meaning. Could you explain that to me again?" It's better to do that than to pretend that you understand, because when you pretend to understand somebody, all sorts of mayhem can ensue. This is where mistakes come in, where problems arise, where you thought they were saying one thing and they were saying something entirely different, and you just don't want to go there. So make sure the professional way to respond to something like that is to ask for clarification, whether it's because you didn't hear them, you couldn't understand them, or you didn't actually know what it was they were wanting you to do. The sixth thing is to acknowledge somebody's presence. I don't know if you've ever walked into a business and you get ignored. That is so unprofessional. If you know that someone is there and you can't get to them right away, you can always go, "I'll be right with you." Or you can say, "I see you. I just have to do this one thing. I'll be right back. I'll be with you in a moment." Or if you can't be, then someone else will be with you in a moment, and make sure that they are, that it's true. I know this always happened when I worked at the hospital, because people would come up to the nursing unit desk and the phone would be ringing. And what we had to do, because we were working in a medical facility, was to find out who was on the phone before we dealt with the person standing in front of us, because the phone was an unknown. We didn't know if it was an emergency or something super urgent. So what I would do is I would say, "I'll be with you in just one moment." I would answer the phone. If I assessed that it was not urgent or critical, I would put the phone on hold, deal with the person that was standing in front of me, and then go back to the phone. This was a question on interview scenarios. This was also an exam question when I used to teach in the communications portion of the program that I taught at college. And it was, how would you prioritize? How would you deal with somebody coming to the desk and the phone ringing at the same time? If you're not in a situation where it's life and death and where there's critical things that could be happening on the phone, you could talk to the person in front of you first, but it would be really annoying to have the phone ringing. So you might just want to put that phone on hold anyway and then get back to your person. But whatever you do, let the person know that they have been seen. Just being seen and acknowledged is an enormous piece of how to communicate in a professional manner in the workplace. If you like this and you want to know more about how to be professional, I've got a video on the 11 attributes of a professional over here. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for staying to the end. I've got something that is a pet peeve that bugs me, that happens all the time in customer service related jobs, and that is the phrase that has become so common in customer service that it doesn't mean anything anymore. I don't know if this is just a Canadian thing, but here in Canada, there is a phrase that happens every time you go into the store or into a place of business or wherever, and that is, at the end of the transaction, the person says, "Have a nice day." And for people who are coming from other countries who don't have that in their culture, it can seem a little bit weird, but it is so common and so pervasive, so ubiquitous here, that it almost means nothing anymore. And what really bugs me is when they say at 9 o'clock at night, when you're in the store, "Have a nice day." It's like, it's night. It's not even daytime anymore. Why are you telling me that? It's almost like it's so common that they don't even hear it themselves saying it anymore. So I really appreciate when a customer service person says, "Have a great rest of your night." At least they've thought that, ooh, it's nighttime. And they're saying something nice. The whole thing is a pleasantry that many people are supposed to say in the customer service realm. they're supposed to say something. So I really appreciate it when there's a little bit of thought put into it. I get that customer service people take a lot of crap, frankly, from the public. People are often very mean to people who are serving them in the service industry, in the grocery industry, and anything to do with customer service. And that is terrible because people are just doing their job, and there is absolutely no reason to be mean, nasty, rude. I have been in that position before, and the stuff that is said because people are having a bad day to the poor person who's doing the work is just horrifying sometimes. There are very nice people out there as well, but honestly, it is a difficult, difficult job. And so to try and be kind to the person at the till is really something that I think is an important thing, right? We could all use some kindness and compassion, especially right now with what's going on in our world. So I like to try and say, how's your day going, to the person behind the till? Or thank you, I hope you're having a good day too, or something like that. But if you're in customer service and you have to say something at the end of a transaction, maybe think about it a little bit. How can you use different words? How can you change it up even slightly to make it a more real transaction? Because I think we need that. We need some authenticity. We need some real transactions. We need some real connection, especially coming out of this weird pandemic time in this troubled space that we are in right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you do check out that next video, and I will see you next time.